Right now, the world is standing closer to a serious geopolitical rupture than most people are willing to admit. Not because of a single dramatic headline, not because of a sudden declaration of war, but because of a long chain of quiet decisions, strategic calculations, and subtle moves that almost no one is paying close attention to. There are no emergency alerts on your phone, no live press conferences, no official countdowns, just pressure. Pressure that is building slowly, consistently, and relentlessly. History teaches us something uncomfortable. The most dangerous moments in global politics are rarely loud. They don't announce themselves. They develop silently, behind diplomatic language, behind routine military movements, behind phrases like standard procedure and controlled situation. Today, we're breaking down why the global balance is shifting faster than expected, why multiple regions are quietly aligning toward confrontation, and why the next major crisis may not start where everyone is currently looking. Stay until the end, because the final piece changes how everything fits together. From the outside, the global system still appears stable. Markets continue to operate, flights take off and land, world leaders smile for cameras and repeat familiar talking points. But beneath that surface, the pressure is undeniable. Military deployments are increasing, often described as defensive or temporary. Naval traffic is becoming more congested, especially in narrow and strategically sensitive areas. Diplomatic language is becoming sharper, more conditional, and less forgiving. And most importantly, red lines are being tested without officially being crossed. This creates a dangerous illusion, an illusion that everything is still under control. History tells us this illusion never lasts, because when too many actors operate in the same strategic space with competing interests, different risk calculations, and limited trust, miscalculation becomes inevitable. Right now, the number of potential flashpoints around the world is higher than it has been in decades. What makes the current moment different is not a single conflict or a single aggressive actor. It's the stacking of tensions. Multiple regions are heating up at the same time. Each situation on its own appears manageable. Each one comes with established protocols, existing communication channels, and historical precedent. But together, they stretch military attention, political focus, and strategic patience to their limits. Naval choke points are becoming crowded with vessels from rival powers. Airspace violations are increasing, often dismissed as testing reactions. Proxy forces are becoming more active, probing boundaries, looking for weaknesses. And when attention is divided, mistakes become easier to make and far harder to undo. This is how global crises actually evolve, not in isolation, but through overlap. Here is what rarely gets discussed openly. The real shift taking place right now is not only military, it is psychological. Certain actors are no longer convinced that the old rules will be enforced the same way they once were. They observe hesitation, they sense political fatigue, they see alliances struggling with internal divisions. And that perception changes behavior. Actions that would have been considered reckless 10 or 15 years ago are now viewed as acceptable risks, not because the stakes are lower, but because confidence in consequences is quietly fading. That is when the system becomes unstable. This moment combines three volatile elements that historically do not coexist for long without serious consequences. First, a high concentration of military assets operating in confined and contested regions. Second, strategic ambiguity, where no side is entirely certain how far the other is truly willing to go. And third, a global audience that is distracted, exhausted by constant crises, and slow to recognize escalation until it is already underway. When all three elements exist simultaneously, crises escalate faster than diplomacy can respond. And once momentum builds, leaders do not always control the outcome. Events begin to take over. One of the most common misconceptions about major geopolitical crises is how they begin. They rarely start with an announcement. They don't begin with a clear declaration. They begin with an incident. A radar signal interpreted the wrong way, a delayed response to a routine maneuver, a misjudged decision under pressure. Something that in isolation seems manageable, but once it happens, narratives harden quickly. Each side believes it is responding defensively. Every action feels justified. Every escalation feels necessary. That is how escalation normalizes itself. In previous decades, clear and trusted communication channels often existed behind the scenes. Today, those channels are weaker. Trust is lower. Messages are filtered through domestic political pressures. Backing down is increasingly framed as weakness rather than restraint. This makes de-escalation politically costly, sometimes more costly than escalation itself. And that is the paradox. The real danger is not that global powers want a major conflict. It is that none of them believe they will be the one who starts it. Everyone assumes the other side will pause first. The other side will blink. The other side will step back. History shows us this assumption is almost always wrong. The most dangerous conflicts are not born from hatred. They are born from confidence. Confidence that this time will be different. Confidence that control will be maintained. Confidence that escalation can always be managed. It never is. And that is why this moment matters far more than most people currently realize. If you want to understand where the world may be heading before the headlines catch up, this is the conversation worth paying attention to.
Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.